watching Saturday in the Woodworking Shop with Andrew Pitts, where we talk things woodworking. But once in a while we get a little power blip. A couple of times I've had the bit kind of run off on its own, and all I can attribute it to is maybe there was a little drop in voltage, something like that, caused one to look like a 0 in the computer and caused the bit to go crazy. So I thought, okay, how do I get around that? Well, if you could have an uninterruptible power supply, or an UPS, that would work great. But would an UPS handle the ShopBot? Here's the ShopBot with the cutter, the computer, a power strip, and over here I got an UPS. It's a 1400 volt amp UPS. I did some calculations using my clamp-on ammeter. So here's the ShopBot. I'm doing a carving. I got a 16th inch bit there. It's not taking a real big bite. So let's just see what we're drawing. Over here to the clamp-on ammeter. It's hooked onto the power supply line. And it looks like I'm pulling about an amp and a half, between an amp and a half and 2 amps. So not much. Come on over here to the UPS and see what it's drawing. And look, we're at 17% power load. When I was hogging away with the half-inch bit, sometimes I might get up to 76%, just little spikes, but generally speaking it was a whole lot less than that. I'm keeping the UPS far away from the dust source. That's why I'm using the power strip. But this is supplying the computer and the ShopBot, and it looks like it's doing a pretty darn good job. Okay, it's one thing to have the UPS supplying power as long as it's plugged into the wall, but let's see what happens when I unplug it. This is the acid test to see if the UPS picks up the load. And there, ShopBot just keeps on going. I'm pulling 19%. Says it can go for another 31 minutes. And there we are, we're back on utility power. Didn't miss a beat. So I got a letter from Dan asking about vacuum hold downs. Sometimes we call them vacuum pucks that you use on the CNC, or really could use them anywhere, to hold work down while you're working on it. And his question was, does the size of this hold down have to be as big as the work? And do you have to size your seal area such that you're always cutting inside of that? And the answer is no. As a matter of fact, in a lot of cases it's better to have your vacuum hold down puck smaller than your work and your tape well inside of where you're going to be cutting if you're going to do all the way through cuts on the edge of your wood. This particular hold down, I'm using tape that I can just peel off. Okay, it just has some sticky stuff on it, and what's important is just making a good tight butt joint on the corners when you tape this stuff, you know, seal this stuff up. This is about a 10-inch by 6-inch area, so 60 square inches. And my vacuum pump right now it's drawn down a little bit. It's about 22.5 inches. It gets up as high as like 25 inches. Run the math on that. You're talking 750 pounds of force holding your work down to that vacuum puck. So just imagine, let's see, 750 pounds. Now we're talking about three really big guys standing on this thing, all centered, okay, holding this thing down. It's not going anywhere. So just to give you a little demo here, I've got a piece of cherry here. It's smaller than my puck, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit the foot valve. And now, of course, I'm on there, and you can see that the surface of the wood and the surface of the hold down are nice and parallel, because what's important is that you have that tape all the way around and it's thin enough that it gets pulled down evenly all the way around and leaves your work parallel. Okay, now I could probably take this and put a board on that's, you know, this big, big as the bed on my ShopBot, and the only thing I'd worry about is, you know, if there's a little bit of tilt one way or the other, I might get a little lighter cut on one side of the piece than the other. I've got a number of different hold downs I made just because I bought a big sheet of this stuff. Here's one case where there goes my pump. Here's one case where I made my tape larger, and I just put a couple of pieces in the center just to kind of give a little support so the wood didn't flex any when it was on here. But really, you could get away with a real small puck. Anthony asked, how do I position my work on the vacuum hold down so that I have it properly aligned? You can see the vacuum hold down is, you know, 3/4 of an inch above the desktop, and so, you know, it's kind of tough to eyeball this in. Well, I've done a few things, and let me zoom in to show you. First of all, when I set up my spoil board, I used a V-bit in the spindle to mark grooves every inch. So I have 1-inch squares all through the board, and I know that that corner is 0, 0. It makes it very handy because now I can line up my work to those grid marks. But for when my work is on a vacuum hold down, it's a little more difficult. So what I've done, I've made a jig. This is an L-shaped piece of wood, 2 inches thick on 2 sides, with a piece hogged out here that fits over the hose. And I know that if I can line this up on my grooves in my spoil board and then lay my material right inside that L, get that lined up nicely, that point is going to be 2 inches up from here and 2 inches over from here. So if this corner of the jig is at x equals 2, y equals 3, that means the corner of the work is at x equals 4, y equals 5. Go ahead and pull my vacuum, and I'm lined up perfectly. Works great. Dave asked me how long it is before my pump cycles when I'm using a vacuum hold down. Well, that's a function of 2 things really. First of all, the seal has to be a good seal. So it's got to be clean, and you've got to have your corners where the tape butts. Remember I showed you that sticky tape? Got to butt that up tight against the corner so you don't get any leaks from the seal itself. But the other thing you can get leaks from is the wood. If you're using a nice tight-grained wood like cherry or maple, and all you do is sand it down nice and smooth, you'll probably get a pretty good seal. Your pump probably won't cycle very much at all. But if you're using a pretty open grain wood, you know, an oak or some walnut or something like that, sanding alone might not do the job. So you may have to actually put some finish on the back of your work and let that, you know, cure well, and then that finish will seal you up against your gasket. So a little trial and error. Always sand as smooth as you can. Get that surface nice and smooth, and then if necessary, you may have to do some finishing on the back before you can get a good seal. Finally, this week we had our Artisan Center of Virginia biennial conference out in Charlottesville, and it was a great experience. We brought craftspeople together from all around the state, and it was just very educational and a wonderful time for all. As you've seen in one of my other videos, we're building the Artisan Trail Network. It's well along, and we're building a trail right here on the northern neck. A feasibility study's been run to build an actual artisan center with gallery space and that sort of thing. Really excited about that. But I'm most excited about the fact that I was awarded the Virginia Juried Master Artisan Award, and that's a recognition of craftsmanship and my willingness to share that with others as I'm doing with you. So I appreciate you watching, because you helped me get that award. And the award is signified by a nice cup. It's got the Artisan Center seal on it. On the back it says Andrew Pitts, Virginia Juried Master Artisan 2015. And it's got a pencil, a tape measurer, and a little sandpaper. All things I need. Thanks for watching.